Hi, we're gonna try this again. Calling Amanda. 1 second. Thanks for hanging in. I'm sorry we're having technical difficulties today. Are
All
you
right.
back?
Is that better? You look better.
You look better too. Okay,
Okay.
let's try again. Anyway, so we were saying yes, that's why I'm doing it because, and I know that you're the same because I feel like when you are, you like people.
I
Even
do
you like
like people.
people.
I'm really curious about people. I think that curiosity is something that has been with me my whole life. And it keeps me, it keeps me engaged and interested with people. Like I can find, and this is the cool thing, I think, when you're curious about people, everybody has a story. Like I'm in my camper right now, and I park it in all different places, and people walk by and they look at it. And I've been meeting people, like random people, who have been stopping and telling me the most incredible stories
Really?
about like the time that they went in a camper and did this thing. And I met a lady the other day that lives down the street from me who told me that she packed up her entire life and lived in a camper for 10 years. And I was like, whoa, amazing. Like, I have to interview you. And I think staying curious, especially as life is changing so much for where we're at its stage of life, is like a godsend.
Yeah, I agree with you. I realize too, and
Oh, hi,
I
Emma.
think that
I see friends joining. This is so lovely.
oh no, they're everyone's from everywhere. Thank you guys for staying in. We've got this now. So and Italia. Yeah, I feel, I my mother worked in travel growing up. She inspected hotels and she rated them, and so she would pick me up out of school and take me to places around the world that I at that moment did not want to go to. Like, you don't at 10 years old, you don't want to be plucked out of school and go to, wherever. She would take me to so many different places. And they were all, a lot of them outside of my comfort zone at that time. But I learned so much. And one of the things that stayed with me was that whatever, you know, judgment or feeling that, or, you had on a person, whether it was somebody that was an old person that I was confronted with or seated with at dinner or whoever, all of a sudden you'd start talking to them. They had a story, they shared something, and all those little things throughout my life have come up in ways that, like, oh yeah, I remember one time I met this person and they said this thing, and for what and that's life. To me, that's life, right? It's
Yeah, I
not sitting in
mean,
our little safe bubbles, not confronting
yeah,
the people around us.
thinking outside of our little bubbles. And I
Yeah.
think there is such a danger today in people staying in their bubbles and then only getting fed information
Hmm.
and getting exposure to people who are aligned with their beliefs. And as how do you I know that I was able to define what I believed and what I didn't believe and what I liked, what I didn't like, by also being confronted with things that I didn't like and people that I didn't like, for me to go, oh my God, that person or that quality that that person has, I don't like that. I don't want to be like that.
Mm-mm.
We have to be confronted with things outside of our bubble. And I think it's become a scary place that there's less and less, that's happening less and less. I mean, my kids, I keep saying, like, my son is traveling this summer without any family. And I'm so excited for him to have his own experience of people,
Yeah.
you know, and to go so out of his comfort zone and just be exposed to different ideas and concepts and people and food and culture. That's how we grow.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you. And I think that sometimes people think nowadays, because of technology, we think that we have traveled somewhere just because we've seen it on our phone, but it's not the same as sitting in some random little cafe somewhere with a local person of their community and seeing what their life is like. This past weekend I was in Barcelona for a friend's birthday, and very, very dear friend, and she celebrated a big birthday, and she went through something major in her life and really had to kind of turn and reinvent herself.
Mm.
Big breakup, and just sort of was like, this isn't the life I want to be leading. And so she moved to Barcelona. She did that. And here she was surrounded by all these people that she had sort of, brought together. And it was so her. Like, I was so
Yeah.
proud of her because it really was a culmination of all the hard work that she had to do, and alone, by the way, alone in Barcelona during COVID, very much alone with her dog during very rough times. And to sort of be there this weekend and celebrate that, but also to be in the city for just 3 days and see how just different everything is. Like, even just something like Spain, we don't think is that different, but there's culture and things that are
And
so
they
different.
nap. I'm such a big napper,
Me
and I
too.
love, oh my God, and I love going to Spain because I love the nap. But that, by the
You
way,
mean
the
that you
fact
mean
that you,
the nap until 11 p.m. and then you have
I
dinner?
know, I know. But listen, I just want to say that you went to Barcelona for your friend's birthday for 3 days. That says so much about you. And I just want to acknowledge that, like, there are so many women out there in the world who say that they want to help women, support women, and advocate for women. And in my experience, there's a lot that actually don't walk the talk. And I just want to say that you are someone who, from the first time I ever met you, you said to me, I love what you do in the world. I see you. I want to support you. If there's anything I can ever do that helps you do what you're doing, I want to do it. And I'm paraphrasing, but that means so much because that is testament to who you are as a person. And I've never forgotten that. You've always been such a supportive woman, even though we're not that good friends. We know each other, but we always have these very connected moments. And it just speaks to who you are, that you show up and that you do want to make a difference. And I just want to
Thank
acknowledge that. So thank you.
you, Amanda. Chin chin to you. Thank you. Right back at you. Right back
Yeah,
at you. And
thank
listen,
you.
I couldn't have that conversation if we were not, as the French say, flying at the same altitude.
That's
So
true.
we're flying at the same altitude.
Yeah.
And I so appreciate that because, boy, is it lovely to move through the world and to be able to see a face in the crowd and to be able to go and just be able to have that. I think
Yes.
I wish that for everybody, because I think even and we're not going to get into the politics of it, but even in terms of all the division that's going on right now in the world, one of the things that strikes me is that, like, listen, you can connect through so many different ways, but hatred is also a way to connect.
Mm.
Hating connects people. And I don't want to be that. I want to connect through love and support and hoping that every person can have a voice and find a place, but not through us having to throw, stones at everything that's different than who we are. And so part of that is learning people's stories. Part of that is, as you said, like, listening. Like, you would not be able to do your show as well as you do and get the kinds of guests that you do if you were not listening to.
Well, that's actually, you bring up a very good point because I remember I did an interview with the New York Times a while back, and the journalist asked me, like, what is the key to your interviews? How do you get people to open up and to be so vulnerable and share such personal things? And I said to her, I don't get anyone to do anything. I just listen. I am truly present with someone. I am listening to what they're saying and I'm responding based on what they've said. So many conversations, people are stuck in their own heads of, like, oh, I need to get this across. I need to make sure I say that. But they're not actually seeing and hearing the person who's right in front
Right.
of them. And I think, more and more it becomes so crucial to really pay attention to, what's the information I'm receiving, and let me not go through life blindly without paying attention and deciding, do I want to be around that person? Do I want to be around that conversation? Do I want to be in that environment? And especially for me, where I'm at in my life, it's like I've lived a lot of life. Like you said, I started working at 16, hosting live late night TV. I've
Incredible.
interviewed people for the majority of my life. I've been in front of the camera. I've been behind as a photographer for many years. I've written books. I've done a lot of things. I've produced, like you. Um, and really taking stock of, like, okay, everything has to be done with intention now, you know? like you, I have a kid who's going off to college. I have another one who's going into the workplace, and that's going to leave a lot of space.
Mhm.
You know, I've been a mom since I'm 19. My
Like
first kid.
my mother had me at 19.
Really?
Yeah, my mother had me at 19.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, you know, did she have any kids after, or was that it for
No,
her?
she didn't. She divorced with my dad by 24, and that was it. She never remarried. She was in long-term relationships, but she just chose not to get
Wow.
married. But yeah, so I have, I have a young mom, and I grew up with a young mom, and as difficult as it is on you, and there's so many learning lessons, it's also so incredible to have a mother that is young enough to be able to participate and relate in a way that you just can't if there's, so many
Such a
years,
big
generations
age
between.
gap.
Yeah.
I mean, it's interesting because I had my first daughter when I was 19, and then I didn't have any kids for 14 years. And the difference between parenting when I was 19 to 14 years later is so different. It's actually much harder. I mean, it's true, I had twins, so I had two to parent as opposed to one, which is very different. But still, the mindset of when I was 19 versus 14 years later, it was a lot easier at 19. I just didn't know everything that I know now about parenting. It's almost like two different parenting, two different generations. And
100%.
and being a parent in two different versions of myself. Do you know what I
That's
mean? Like,
that's so interesting. I never thought about that, but you're right. It is versions of yourself. Even my son is only 4.5 years younger. And I feel like now, as he's in seventh grade and I'm going to embark on this next stage with him, I'm a different version of
yeah,
myself.
right?
Yeah.
I know.
So I can't imagine 14 years, like completely different version of yourself.
And and we're going to keep being different versions of ourselves. That's the goal. Do you know what I mean? If we stop growing that and stay who we are today, that would be sad. That would be terrible.
Yeah.
I want to keep growing. I already feel like, my kids are 17, my twins are 17, and I'm already looking at how I parented them, when they were like 5 to 10, thinking, oh,
Yeah.
I would do that differently now you know
Yeah.
and I think that's good to keep growing and reflecting. It's difficult for people around you when you're like, yeah, I know that you know me as this version of me, but I'm not that anymore. It's difficult for people.
It is difficult. Um, I think one thing that you touched upon, you spoke on recently is this, and I, again, paraphrasing, but you spoke about sort of, us accepting this moment where we're at and just not caring so much about the things we cared about before. And so when we go through those transitions of, our priorities shift, right? Whether, in our 20s, it was like we were hustling, we wanted to make all this stuff happen, but then you get to a certain place and you're like, well, what are those things that are happening? What's important to me? Is
Yeah,
it to be gone all year round and have somebody else parent my kids?
right.
Or is it to sort of know that when they hit that milestone, I did the work for it? Like I actually showed up every morning. I made their breakfast. I took them to school. I had those little conversations at the end of the day. I was there to see them through those rough moments and be the one to give them advice on what to do, not somebody else.
Yeah,
So, but with that comes all of the changes of, oh, but we didn't have time to do this or we wanted to do that. So there's so many things, but I do feel like, and now coming back from every time I go to Europe and I do have one foothold there, always, they are more chill. Like, let's just be honest. It's
oh,
just
i
everyone's more
i
chill
know.
about it.
I
They're just
know.
more chill. The
I
women are
know.
more chill. No one's freaking out and putting a bunch of crap into their, like not
I
looking like
know. I
themselves.
know, they just get
Everyone is
on with it.
more
I
chill, and
know.
they're more chill about children. They're much more open. They're not putting this pressure on themselves. We have this weird pressure going on in America that is just like there is a standard that everyone needs to be exceptional in some way. My husband and I were talking about it. Everyone has to be exceptional.
Yeah,
Everyone
I
has to be
mean, I
special.
I think you're very right that, last summer we traveled a lot. My husband is in the Strokes, and they are a touring band every
Yeah.
summer. And so we tend to spend most summers in Europe. And last summer we were in Japan, we were in London, Paris, all over Europe with the kids. And it was so great. Both of my kids were like, oh, we want to move to Paris. We want to live in Europe. And I think that America overall is the capitalist structure here. It isn't just to do with the work culture, it's to do with the family culture. It starts in the family culture in order to breed people that fit into the capitalist work culture. And it is across the board. And I think,
Mhm.
you know, different cultures. I mean, Japan was like, couldn't be more different. You know, the mindset there is so intentional and so considered, and less is more. And then we got to Europe, and it's like, you know, obviously I grew up in England, so and my husband is half French, so we're used to it. But our kids felt such a difference there, and a much more, it was so much more freeing for them. And it's, you know, yeah, well, I mean, look, I can't, I want to travel as much as possible. I'm like, it's important to be in environments that don't have that amount of pressure, because you don't even realize that you're adhering to the pressure.
Right.
Do you know what I
Right.
mean? It's like when you, like here, it's about what are you doing? What are you doing? And I want to say, I have done more than most people do in their lifetimes. Okay. Like,
Yay! Cheers
like
to that.
hi.
Enough. I've done a
And
lot. How about
I've
that?
done a lot. And, you know, I haven't put a product out in the market. I haven't put a book or a TV show or a whatever the fuck it is, because I'm being very intentional about what I do. I'm slowing the fuck down. And you know what I did? I took care of myself. I read a lot of books. I took a lot of naps. I'm getting my kids through high school. I'm really reevaluating my friendships. I'm taking time. And by the way, maybe I won't put any of those things out again. It's unlikely, but maybe I won't. Maybe I'll start an animal rescue if that's what feeds my soul.
Yeah. Cheers to you, my dear. I'm so happy to hear you say that. You know, I'm so happy to hear you say that. I think, I do think, and somebody, by the way, somebody wrote from France and they said, come to France. It is not chill. You know,
Really?
and yeah, but you know, it's every place has its own level of
Chill.
its own pressure.
Yeah.
But I do think that what you're saying about America is absolutely true. And I do think that my husband said something the other day that like that that really struck with me, was that like all of a sudden we're products of products.
Ooh, yes.
We're products of
Yes.
products. So the book and the this and the that and the this, it's all wonderful. Listen, on the plus side of all of that is that people are sharing stories more than ever. People are talking about their lives. They're talking about deep issues in their lives and their struggles and their traumas and their identities and all sorts of things in a way that I think is beautiful. But what's interesting is somehow we're also still polarized. So it's like you're sharing a lot, but then in some ways it brings in certain people, but then you do this to other, like, so it's, human beings are
Well,
complicated and fascinating, but I'm so happy to hear you say that, because when people always say, what are you doing? I'm like, oh my gosh, do you want me to give you my calendar for the week? Because I am nonstop.
I
I
know.
have so many things going on that I feel like I'm popping out of like all sides of it. My thing is like, where do I find that space for me to take that nap, to
Well,
read that
it
book I
has
want to
to go.
read?
For me, it only became a priority when I was running on empty. So 18 months ago, my dad died, and he was
Sorry.
diagnosed with a very aggressive form of cancer from being, my dad was a race car driver. He was an athlete his entire life. He was 74 years old. He never was sick. You know, he would break bones and keep racing, and he got diagnosed, and within 18 months he was dead. And that did something to me in a way that nothing else in my life has had that effect on me. And what it did was it made me re-examine absolutely everything. And I could not run, I could not be scheduled the way I used to, because I did not have the
Yes.
resilience, right?
I
And
relate to
so
that. Yeah.
only because of necessity, because I was like, I'm not going to make it through this. If I don't slow down and prioritize stopping and allowing myself to be in this grief, I don't know that I'm going to make it. I mean, genuinely. And so only because something like that happened have I now prioritized taking care of myself. And it's like, it's so cheesy, you know, like take care of yourself and self-care. And that's become an industry. Do you know what I mean? And so I don't want, you know, and it's like, who has time to take naps? Someone that doesn't have a ton of responsibilities and multiple jobs, and like, who is that person? But for me, it's become who I cannot not afford to. I can't actually do those other things unless I put into my day. It could even be 15 minutes, 30 minutes. I have to do it because it brings me such sustenance that without it, like I end up running on empty.
But
And that
do,
is
do,
not
do you
okay.
think, Amanda, and first of all, I just want to say I'm so sorry for your loss,
Thank you.
and losing a parent is a extremely difficult thing. I lost my father when my daughter was just 5 months old to
Oh,
cancer, and same thing.
wow.
It's very, very, very. It's a long process, right?
And I'm in
And a
it.
very personal one. But do you think that on that, like, because I've sometimes questioned, wow, why can't I do as much as some of the things I see people doing? Like, how are they at the Met Gala and raising two kids and doing this and doing that and like on every cover? Like, they're not home. Like, how are they doing it? How do
I'll
they
tell
wake
you,
up and make it
some
happen?
Sasha, I think about that too, and I can tell you that something is taking a hit
Right.
because they don't have more hours than us, okay? If you want to be a present mother and a present parent, I don't care what anybody says. I've run a company and I was the CEO and founder of Girl Gaze, and I raised money, and I did that for 8 years. And you know what? I was not available for my kids when they got home from school. I was drained by the time I got back. I did not have the bandwidth for one more conversation, and my family suffered.
Same.
So I don't care. We see everybody doing that stuff, but I can tell you that their kids are taking a hit, or their marriage is taking a hit, or their mental health is taking a hit, or something is taking a hit. It's just not possible. And by the way, you and I both know a lot of those women and also know what their lives look like behind the scenes. And I think it does everybody a disservice to keep pretending that you can have it
Uh,
all, because you cannot.
You are
You cannot.
you are preaching to, I can't, I got to tell you, I'm literally like, I joke about lean in, because I mean, lean in is great and has amazing, there's amazing messaging in there, Cheryl's book, but there's also part of me that's like, lean in and also lean back. Like,
Yeah.
sit back for
Well,
a
by the
second.
way, like, sorry, Sheryl Sandberg, to write about leaning in, Sheryl Sandberg, with all due respect, has enough financial security to have paid
Correct.
childcare, and it allowed her to be able to, do a career and build a company and work at Facebook and all of that. And I actually, at the time, Lean In was revolutionary because it was the first time that anyone had really spoken about workforce, women in the workforce like that. But actually, pretty soon afterwards, and it's funny because, by the way, I like Sheryl Sandberg, but I remember seeing her come to speak at a friend's house, and she flew in on private jet, did the talk, and flew out on private jet. And I was like, yeah, bitch, I could fucking lean in a bit more if I had a private jet and all the rest of it too. Like, sorry, you know what I'm saying? Like, let's be real. Let's be real about this, because it's unfair for
It's
other
unfair.
women to look at it and go, oh, why am I failing so miserably because I'm not able to do this? Well, so many of us aren't.
And
And that's
I'll tell
okay.
you, Amanda, many people that I know also who have pivoted in their businesses and their lives at a certain point, they hit a moment where there's like a tipping point where something happens with their children or their marriage or the relationship, or by the way, they have none of those things, and then they wake up and say, why don't I have these things and I really want them? We all have to really look at sort of where we put our energy and our time. And for me, there really was a lot, maybe due to my own childhood, where my family, the importance of being there was so vital to me. Like, I did not want to, at the end of this, tag on another television show, to my resume and have no one waiting for me when I got home.
Yeah.
I mean, when I worked those crazy hours, I was like, people don't know how much we work. And I didn't see my children wake up most of the time or go to sleep. And I would have to, even with nannies, they can bring them to set, they can whatever, but you want your kids to have like a stable life. You want them to wake up and have their routine. So when that was over, I really wanted to marinate in being a parent. And I wanted to feel that and be in that. And then COVID hit, and then we all had a lot of time together, which was wonderful. But I agree with you. I think that it's unfair, the pressure that I see a lot of also women who, a lot of women who are doing, it's not even influencing stuff, but like whether it's your home life and throwing the perfect birthday party for your kid and all the details and the perfectionism that our gender is so good at. We can literally create something out of nothing. Women are so powerful, so capable of doing a lot of things at once. And so the lean into
But
me
it
is,
doesn't mean that we have to.
no,
It doesn't mean that we
right,
have to. And
right,
that's the thing, is that the messaging is that we should, and that we are less than if we are not. And the messaging should be, actually, you don't have to. What works for you? And by the way, respect to you if you don't feel like you're able to do that. I don't feel
yeah,
like I'm able to do
yeah,
that.
I agree.
I really don't. I'm like, no, I can't do all that stuff,
Yeah,
And I actually say to my kids, guys, I'm sorry that I'm not the mom that does all this stuff. I know you've got friends whose moms do that. And what I want to say is, they probably don't have a job. But I'm not saying that. I'm like, actually, that job is being a mom full time. And that is one of the toughest jobs.
yeah,
But, you
absolutely.
know, I really have to be honest with them and say, look, I am not the mom for this stuff. Like, I am not going to Disneyland or Universal Studios or any of those things. I hate it. I don't like crowds. I get overwhelmed. I have like sensory
Me
overload.
too, me too.
But you know what? But I will take you to the rescue farm to pet the animals, or there's so many things I will do with you. But I am not the mom for like the making memories at the theme parks. Like, I am
Yeah.
not that person. So lucky for them,
You
their
know what?
dad is.
I'm with you. Some people do it and they have such a great time. I have a cousin, and he and his wife, like, to them, taking their kids to Disneyland is like a dream. They all love it, and
Oh
I
my
so
God,
appreciate it.
definitely not.
And I have a friend who has like a pass, to go to all the things. And so I said to her, "You're in charge of taking my kids to all
That's
the amusement parks. I'll go, but I get sensory overload. It's like a
that's
lot. It's a
that's
lot."
why community
Yeah.
is so important as well. And we used to live in communal settings, and now we're so isolated, and everyone's families are segregated, and we have to rely on, if we don't have family, paid help. I mean, the
Yeah.
people who have helped me take care of my home and my family since my kids have been born, they are my family.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
I could not do my job if I didn't have a husband who, was a touring musician, so he's home for huge chunks of time. I wouldn't have been able to even start the conversation. I started the conversation on TV after my kids were born, and my husband took 5 years off from the strokes. So we would get up in the morning, he would take them out to the playground and then take them to day school, and I was setting up to shoot interviews in the
Yeah.
house.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it was like, I couldn't have done that without him. There's no
You
way.
know, you, somebody just wrote a comment that said the differences between human beings will always be beautiful. And I just wanted to say that today. Come here, Margot. My dog's driving me crazy. Come here, honey. Come here.
Hi, Claudia
The
from London. I love that there's so many people on here from
There
all
are.
around the
Hi,
world.
Margot.
Oh, hi.
Hi.
You're
Say
so
hi to Amanda.
cute.
Hi.
Hi.
Um,
Oh my God, the dogs.
You know what? I love that, and I hope that we keep that as because I think both you and I have a point of view on all of this that is very similar in terms of, you know, we all have to have compassion and empathy for everyone, no matter what our differences are, and also as women, to to appreciate and understand the growth and the changes that happen naturally, and to help each other through those. We're not all the same, and we have to be kinder. I have to, and have learned to be kinder to myself when I say, wow, like these people were able to do all these things, and I can't do that. My mind isn't functioning that way. For me to be present means for me to turn off all of my phones and my everything, and just sit there with my kids watching, I don't know, a TV show that they want to watch, or doing something that they want to do. And in order to do that, that really means to be present, really means to stop everything else, right?
You
It's
know,
leaning.
yeah, it's interesting. I, about 3 months ago, I started a Substack,
Mm,
um, which, if anyone doesn't know what Substack is, it's a platform where people are writing long form content. And it's different to social media, which I find difficult with, like, you can't really get into the gray. You can, on social media, you're dealing with sound bites and snippets. And on Substack, it's long form content. So I've been writing, and that has required me to be very still and very present. And it's a discipline it's a new discipline. And I found it very, very difficult. I've realized how distracted I am, how hard it is for me to focus, that I'm so conditioned to sound bites and snippets and little distractions all the time, that it's so hard for me just to even sit and read a book. I'm
yeah,
used to like scrolling, and being on Substack is like retraining myself to read long form
which
articles and to
is so
write
vital.
long
That's
form.
amazing.
I mean,
Is it
I'm
under your
struggling with it.
name? Is
It's
sub, how
under,
do we
yeah, it's
find?
under Amanda de
Okay, okay.
Cadenet. And it's been such a great discipline, and I'm actually learning to be more present. And I'm learning that over the years, I've gotten pretty distracted because of just how our world is set up.
We're
It's
this
no one's fault.
same person, we just don't know
I,
it.
I think we've had an inkling. I think we've had an inkling for quite a
I think
while.
we've had an inkling. You are, we are the same person, which is, I so, you know, I so appreciate you being honest about it. I'm so over everybody pretending that things are so easy and they look so glam and everything. It's such
It
bullshit. Anybody
is.
listening to this, it's bullshit. Everybody has a struggle in some way. Some
Everybody.
people can wake up and they can get their thing. I remember there was a friend of mine growing up. Her mother used to say, never get out of bed without putting makeup on first. So you always have to look like, you know, pretty for your boyfriend or your husband. And I was like, what do you mean? Like, you're gonna get up and start your day. I'm not doing it for the person that I'm with. I'm doing it
Yeah.
for me. So I remember this, but I feel like people get up, it's not for the person that they're at home with. They put their makeup on for the world. They're putting their
Yeah.
makeup on for the world.
Well, because
And
everything is documented now. It's like everything, every time anyone takes a photo, it could go out on social media. And the thing is, it does. I don't really wear makeup. I'm very, very
yeah, me too.
low maintenance with the
Yeah.
makeup. I don't really do I'm very like, however I roll out, I roll out. And I was like that when I was on TV doing the conversation. I didn't wear shoes. I was in my house. I was like, this is how I am. And, I've become aware of the fact that every time I go out places, even if it's just friends that want to take photos, that it can go out in social media. And man, have I seen some photos of me put out by friends where I'm like, why would you post that? Like, come on, man. Do you like me or not? But so I get it. You have to kind of like let go. Your ego has to be okay with knowing that if you go out,
Yeah.
someone, and not to do with being a famous person, just to do with like, people document everything. They document their food. So if you're eating a meal with someone, they might take a picture of you and it might go on their social media to those 5 people that follow them. And it's not a big deal, but it's just that people are now very conscious of the fact that they could be documented, and they most likely will.
but don't you feel also, and somebody just wrote it, nobody cares, don't worry. I agree with you, John. I feel like the world is coming to a place like nobody cares, don't worry. I feel
I,
like, listen, I do
I
think
don't
that
care.
people, I think that the people that are doing that, like I think if you're going to the Met Ball and there are some amazing looks, I love the theme and all that, then I think that's like a certain thing that you're doing. But I certainly hope for all the people that do that every day or have to do that kind of a thing all the time, that there is a place where they can just take everything off and be themselves too. I do feel, I don't know, but I do feel that that's so important for your own well-being to say it doesn't matter. Like I am totally in love with Pamela Anderson out of all
Oh
people
my
because
gosh. I
good for
mean,
her, man.
what
Good
a
for her,
and what a
right?
beauty. I had the amazing good fortune to photograph her recently with like no makeup. She would like zero. She is so stunning. In fact, I had some friends who were at the Met Ball and who, one of them in particular, who looked incredible. And this is a woman who, well, Demi Moore, who looked
She looked,
incredible.
that was amazing.
And
Amazing.
and this is a woman who goes home and wears no makeup for most of the time, and is just like her normal self,
Yeah,
and beautiful with and can appreciate like, oh, I'm dressing up and going to a
right.
thing. But most of the time that's not how she's rolling, obviously. But I was digressing. So I was looking at all the people at the Met Ball, and I had other friends who normally go who didn't go. And it was really fascinating because when you look at video of everybody posing on the red carpet, it looks quite surreal with everyone posing for the photos, like they're in a photo shoot. And I was thinking, oh my God, this is so like, it's like peacocks,
Oh yeah, totally. If you
you know?
scroll on the Vogue, if you look on the Vogue one, which I did this morning, the Vogue, just sort of Insta feed, because they always have such nice, it was just peacocks. Yeah,
It's so wild.
yeah,
And I can appreciate it. And I love fashion and all of that. But you're right. I think, when your life is on stage more of the time than it's off stage, I think that really does a number on people. And they have to do a lot of work to not lose themselves. And
yeah,
understandably, what I was thinking on my walk this morning was, we're so used to seeing people in front of, a barrage of paparazzi or red carpet cameras, but actually it's scary. I've been doing that since I'm 15 years old. I still get on a red carpet and my gums stick to my teeth and I don't know, and I'm like, and I get, anxious and I don't know what to do with my
yeah,
hands. And like,
yeah.
it's a lot.
It's a lot.
I wanted to kind of show people the experience of what it's like on that other side,
Yeah.
when people are calling your name and you're like, oh, which way do I look? And it's a lot.
As a
It's scary.
as a performer, my mind goes to what is she thinking about right now? Like
Uh,
where when they're like when like I was looking at Zendaya and she had she made a costume change and then she comes out in something else and I'm looking and being like, is she just like totally check out or does she create a story in her mind? Like what is happening? Like every turn, have they practiced with their stylist like how to turn, what's the
yes.
look?
Yes. In that
Everything is
dress. Yes.
so like
What
choreographed, I mean,
about the lady? What about the girl? I don't know. I mean, I don't know what it says for me that I didn't know who it was. There was a girl who had some kind of like, it was like shaped to her body and she had to be carried up the steps. She couldn't walk.
wait, was it the Loewe? Was it Taylor Russell? It
No,
was like nude and then white.
no.
Okay.
This was like, it looked like papier mache or something that was shaped to her body.
Huh.
And she could not walk. She had to have a man on either side pick her up like a Polly Pocket doll. You know those Polly Pockets? Like a little like Polly Pocket pick
Yes.
her up. And I was like, oh my God, that is commitment.
You know what though? I listen, I love the performance of it all. I think it's beautiful and I think it's a great opportunity to show so much so many things that we don't see. So I like the performance of it all. I think it's an odd, you know, no, I like the performance of it all, but I hope that everyone gets to sort of chill when
Someone's
they're
saying it was sand. Okay, it was Tyla, Tyla.
okay.
Do you know
I
who
don't know.
that is?
Mm-mm,
No, neither do I. I don't know.
mm-mm.
Maybe
Yeah.
someone else, maybe someone on here knows.
Somebody said it also happened. They think it happened with Dua Lipa too.
Yeah, I don't
Anyway,
know.
well, listen, listen, I like it. It's all great. It's a performance and it's all
It
fun,
is
but um,
performance art. It
it
is performance art,
is. It's performance art.
and you know what? There are some amazing performers out there doing it. I mean,
Yeah,
you look at the Met Ball; they're definitely there. You
yeah,
know,
yeah,
and it that's its own thing.
yeah, yeah. Well, we have to wrap up here, but I'm so see we dive, we
We
go,
do.
we just go. We get in the car and we're
Let's
driving.
try
We're
to
like
see
road
each
tripping,
other.
you and I. We need like a road trip.
You can
We just go.
you can come hang in my camper. We'll go for a trip.
100%. I would love that. You're so
Oh,
beautiful. I'm so happy
thank you. I'm
to
so
see your
happy to see you.
face. And let's get together outside of this so I can see your face in
I
person.
would love that.
But thank you for just coming on and also just like all your conversation. I love what you do. You
Thank
guys tune
you.
in to Amanda and everything that she's doing. And you bring so much beauty and depth to your work. So
Thank you,
thank
Sasha.
you for that
Thank you.
because I so appreciate it
Thank you.
and so thank you and lots of love to your beautiful family.
Thank you to you too, and thanks for everyone for spending some time with us this morning on Sasha's Insta Live. I love it.
Thank you. Big kiss, my dear. We'll talk soon.
Bye.
Ciao. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.